For me, my story, I truly feel that it began with henna, began at the age of 11. So I'm a first-gen Canadian Pakistani, but it was not until Ramadan when I went into a cassette store and my dad introduced me to henna. It has helped many marriages, community celebrations come together because of the act of adornment. And when you adorn someone, you are not just painting for the sake of painting. You are expressing and choreographing your emotions. It is a part of acknowledging that you are in the presence of another person, in the presence of another spirit, in the presence of another energy. And when you intertwine that with art, suddenly there is this performance that is beyond our awareness.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Meta Transitions. We are so happy to have Saira here with us, as she is going to share a lot with us about her holistic practice. We're so excited to have her share so much with us about her spiritual journey and what she's doing right now with henna. So excited, Saira, for having you.
Thank you so much, Tricia, for having me in this beautiful space and to share my story. Firstly, I'd like to pay a tribute to all the mothers today in the world. It is Mother's Day, and motherhood doesn't just mean to have a child, right? The mother is the nurturer inside us, the protector, the healer, the medicine woman, Gaia itself. She is mother. So we are so blessed to have so much mother in us, within us, and surrounding us. And I just like to say that before even going further, the gratitude that I have for you and the immense radiance that I've seen and had that I mentioned earlier was that it is so incredible to find this divine feminism and femininity and also divine sisterhood that we see in today's space. When we look at divine feminine, we don't just look at women, we look at the call and the works of the heart. And I'm so grateful that we were able to connect on with our hearts. So thank you so much for having me here.
Oh, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. Right. And you're right. That sense of positivity, once we were able to email each other and talk to each other, there was just that, I think, naturalness that came out of our conversation. So I'm so happy to have you and to sort of share, your story with the viewers. So we'll start there. Right. What is your story?
Yes, absolutely. Well, there's so much. What is the story? I mean, I feel as if, we can associate ourselves with so many titles. For me, my story, I truly feel that it began with henna, began at the age of 11. So I'm a first-gen Canadian Pakistani, being raised in a Muslim household, Hamilton, Ontario. So lots of nature around me, the abundance of nature. But it was not until Ramadan when I went into a cassette store, a video and cassette store, which existed back then in the 90s.
Yes.
And my dad introduced me to henna. And the henna
Yes.
cones were about an arm's length. And the medium of henna, for those who do not know, the Latin name or the scientific term is Lawsonia nermis, and it comes from warmer climate regions in India, predominantly today, also Afghanistan. It is also grown in areas of Morocco, in very warm, moist climates. And this almost like tree shrub-like plant, when the leaves are extracted and then dried, it actually creates this really beautiful dark maroon mahogany loving henna stain. And henna not only has the power or has been used throughout the Middle East in the 16th, 17th centuries, and even in Egypt, to symbolize birth, death, time of passage and transition. But it has also helped many marriages, community celebrations come together because of the act of adornment. And when you adorn someone, when you paint, for example, you are not just painting for the sake of painting. You are expressing and choreographing your emotions. So as a henna artist today, I'm at the age of 33, so that's been a really long time with my henna journey. I found that many people were hiding and suppressing their truths, in the sense that, if they were going through anxiety during a time of transition, or if they were grieving in a time of transition, which that transition usually traditionally led to happiness, But because they were grieving that transition from leaving something of their own and their own world into then sharing it with someone, for example, in marriage, for example, in maternity, for example, in, I also adorn clients, my cancer patients as well, that are going through such, powerful transitions of their health, right? And not knowing and not being able to see what's happening in our bodies, but feeling that with emotion. So being able to express that through art on the body, on our beautiful vessel, that gave me this new purpose. And I truly feel that God sends messengers as artists. And these artists are actually talking about, the Great Depression with Picasso, with Michelangelo, with God's downloads, right? And then you have henna, which is, for so long has been seen as just a craft. It truly has the ability to heal and to really bring out the connection and the community work between, for example, you and I. If we were to sit in this beautiful session right now, I would adorn you, but I would also feel your energy and you would also feel mine. So henna is more than just the part of adornment. It is the part of acknowledging that you are in the presence of another person, in the presence of another spirit, in the presence of another energy. And when you intertwine that with art, suddenly there is this performance that is beyond our awareness. It combines our soul, our skin. Our skin is a part of our integumentary system, so it's on the epidermis. Yes, it touches the skin, but for me, it was more so this profound connection that I had with that individual. So when I started going through that and adorning others, again, when I was 11 till I was 16, when I first started my company, I didn't realize what I was doing. I was just adorning for the sake of, we came from a financial crisis, intergenerational trauma. There was financial intergenerational trauma that I don't even know that started from my grandfather to my great grandfather, when my grandfather was demoted as a police officer in Pakistan. And then he became angry because he wasn't able to express his emotions, because back then mental health they didn't have the awareness. And so when I came into because my dad came from Pakistan, 87, before he was here in the 70s, off in the West Coast. And when he came here in 87 with my mother, I'm a wedding baby of 88. And I remember him coming here thinking of that opportunity that my children, and he didn't know that he was going to have 3 daughters and no sons. That was another part of the transition where he didn't expect to have those daughters and to struggle with those emotions and being unable to express those emotions at times, love, generosity, wholeness, fullness, because he came from a family that saw struggle, suffering, financial depletion. Like, he was depleted. He lost his mother when he was 16. And again, these are stories that I found out so much later, and I wish that I was told that, which is why I find your platform so important, because this is how we connect. And when we connect, we're able to use those areas of our mind, use those expressions of art to expand this awareness of our emotional well-being. And again, not getting tossed and turned, because there's so many stories over stories and they're multi-layered. My transition to using henna as a energy worker started in, I would have to say 2006, 2007, when I went to OCAD University. So 16 till about, I would say 19, I was working. I had my job at Walmart, Dollarama, and then those jobs weren't really sustaining much for me at all. And I started doing henna just because I wanted to, people thought I was good at it. So I just started doing it. And I found that women specifically, because most of my clients are women, they started reaching out to me and connecting, and they were like, Saira, you've healed us. Like, I don't think you understand what that, and I was like, I don't know what that means. I don't know what you're even trying to say to me. And when they had that conversation come through the paintings of their hands, suddenly I realized that God is trying to tell me to help these women by choreographing their emotions in this visual experience. And that's when I told myself, Tricia, that, henna first, I have to help myself first. So there was a whole other realm of henna. And I think I kept going deeper and deeper into my own wounds of chronic anxiety, insomnia had developed. So I didn't know what I was doing, because then what happened was what was once so beautiful became a part of my workaholism. I was so addicted to it because it was giving me the money. It was providing me the money. I was so busy, and I was like #1 in 2014 all over North America, and that contest, and all these labels of identifying with wellness and doing well in life and succeeding because you have money suddenly crippled me. And I found myself at like a standstill, and that just happened in the pandemic, where I started questioning why I was actually using henna.
Yes, you needed to get to the root of, why am I doing this? What's my purpose? My meaning, my reason for being here.
And there's so much more that goes into that, where henna, for me, when I was at OCAD University, I used to, art through the West and art through a different lens was very, very powerful. And again, because we are in the West, you are taught by the Western ways, even though there's diversity and there's inclusion now. When I was growing up, I was the only South Asian woman, I didn't even have any other women of color or people of color where I was raised in Hamilton. We moved a lot throughout Ontario. We moved to Kitchener, Leamington, and then we came to Markham, Richmond Hill, and then Aurora, and now Vaughan, where I live with my husband. And I find that throughout that transition between I was 11 and 22, people were being encouraged to speak and wear and eat the food that they were eating. But there wasn't this celebration, or there wasn't this awareness for the people that they were around. And now with diversity and talks of inclusion, I feel like more of us have responsibility, not just being first-gen Canadian and because, I'm born here, so yes, I have the citizenship, or yes, I have the credentials, or I have the education so I can speak. No, it's about taking the time back to actually revisit those patterns that we've learned in addressing, okay, so I am a henna artist, but I'm first an artist. And before that, I'm a messenger of God. I'm a messenger. And that's what I believe, that we are all vessels. And, when you're intuitive and when you have this feeling, and these goosebumps that are rising on my skin right now, when you have this feeling, God is mirroring the power that he has given you, or the universe, or whoever, your ancestors. And when you find creativity, when you find art, and when I found art when I was at OCAD, I began to challenge the system that I was in, because I wasn't being taught what I wanted or what I needed my body or my soul to feel restored and rejuvenated. So then I used henna in OCAD University. And again, being the first North American painter to use henna in an academic setting, that was just profound. But then I had my ego come in. And I was like, okay, we have to simmer this down. The ego is good, because there's also ego with leadership, but then there's the ego that really just, there's the greed with the ego. There's a perfectionist with the ego, and the ego with the perfectionists begins to cripple you and begins to take you away from that. So then I used henna to paint and express my chronic anxiety, my late nights where I couldn't sleep, days and days repeated where I didn't even know if I would have funds to even get home. My commuting, Tricia, was so limited, where my mom, we were in such a financial crisis where we were evicted almost 4 times from our home while before I got into university almost till the end of university. We were evicted 4 times within North America. And you think that, coming to Canada, the great life, the American dream, or whatever you want to call it, for these, immigrant mentality is that's what you expect. But when you don't work on your intergenerational trauma, when you are unaware, and when you constantly think that exterior motives are going to feed you and nourish you, you find yourself in you find yourself barren. Like the womb of a woman is barren, or the heart of a man is barren, or the body of people is barren. And finances were it became almost like I was hungry for it. And I expressed that through my work, and I completed my thesis, and thank God, there's bursaries and grants for students that I was able to get, that $10,000 for the last year. because I found that because there wasn't that work wasn't being done at home, I ran to school and I pushed myself. I also had another job, but I connected and I continued with henna because I was able to listen to other people's stories, as this platform does, where I'm listening into other people. I'm adorning them for free, or $5 or 5 cents or whatever it is, but I'm adorning because I know that I'm not alone, because I know that there are struggles, there are adversities. And what more than now, this pandemic, it has shared us that we're all equal. It doesn't matter how much money you have, or what safety hazards you have, or how much food you have, or how much you can even run or take care of your immunity, or whatever it is. COVID is COVID. The virus is the virus. Illness is illness. But pain is the dis-ease. It's telling us something. If we look at disease, yes, then we're in fear of. But if we look at it and we separate the word as dis-ease, then we know that we can find ease if we simply just address it. So I was able to do that with henna. I was able to do that by connecting. I was able to do that by going to these bazaars and melas and adorning my brides. And suddenly this whole wedding industry became chaotic for me. And I was like, what is happening? All we're promoting is love and luxury in the wedding industry. Marriage isn't just about luxury. Nothing is solved after marriage. If anything, things start going out of dismay and disorder, and you start,
definitely.
right?
Yes. So I'm hearing a lot in your story, right? And I'm also hearing a bit of a pattern, sort of the transitioning in your story. So each time it sounds like you get to a place of, doing really well and being successful. You feel like these emotions of greed or these emotions of ego and pride maybe comes in, and you're just like engulfed maybe in it. And I could sense that sensitivity, that you have, that sense of awareness of recognizing this happening. And then you're like, this, artistry, this creativity that I have within me, is getting me to a place of, success, but also recognizing how it can consume you as well, and bring out all these negative things too. But I think what I'm hearing is at every single stage, you're able to become aware, you're able to address these issues, and then still use the same tool, henna, as your sense of healing and grounding and centering. And, that's sort of what I've been hearing in your story this whole time, recognizing that henna is art. Henna is history within culture. Henna is a way to communicate in community and to bond, but also henna is a healing tool, right? That can be used for self-healing, for community coming together, and even professionally, when individuals are going through difficulty, they can also come to somebody who's a professional like yourself and use those tools to help them through what they're going through, right? And it's such a beautiful story because you bring in sort of the familial aspects as well. You talk about your dad, you talk about your mom, you talk about your immigrant experience, right? And you're right, there's so many individuals, especially from, communities that you're from, because I'm Jamaican. So my family and I, we migrated here from Jamaica. So similarly to you and your family, where your family migrated from Pakistan to here, a lot of people there think, oh, you are now in Canada, the land of opportunity. Everything should be flowing your way. Prosperity should just be flowing. But then they don't realize the struggle, right? The transition that a lot of times people have to go through to get to where they are now, right? And I think the other pieces that I'm hearing from you there is, you're talking about multi-generational patterns, right? It's a huge part of what I do in counseling. So I was like, whoa, yes, please talk about that, because I was really intrigued, right? When you talk about that, because that is such a huge part of healing, right? Recognizing what your family goes through, how your family deals with these things. And it sounds like it was a multi-generational issue when it came to socioeconomic status, finances, how to manage that, how to get through tough times. right? And as you said, it started with, you know, this person in your family losing their job, being demoted, not knowing how to, you know, transition with that sort of experience, and it sort of trickles down to, you know, other family members. And it sounds like you went through that experience yourself, where it really, you know, impacted you negatively, and you had to figure out ways of coming through that and out of that, to break those patterns, you know, so that your family members don't, you know, inherit sort of that way of just being with negativity rather than moving through it. I hope I captured your story well.
Beautifully, absolutely. And it was done in just this beautiful time lapse. And I just want to say thank you so much for like giving me the space to speak, because for so long, and the thing is, do we protect ourselves and do we set up our boundaries? I forgot to set up my boundary today, but I know that, you know, as someone that is profound as you, who listens to stories, you know, that fluidity of understanding and connecting comes from someone who too has gone through and seen much. And I feel as if with henna for so long, there has been this, it's been so vastly miscommunicated for so long. You know, you go to the store and, you know, if you ask me, Tricia, oh, Saira, where can I buy henna? Well, back in the 90s, I would say, well, from the grocery store, right? Because they're sitting on the shelves and they're unrefrigerated. But now after becoming a holistic health trainer, soon to be licensed, you know, I'm studying that and learning about herbs and how they're actually preserved is a whole other part of henna that I had to integrate as well. So having that knowledge now just brings in the educators, the responsibility of the educator into this equation of well-being. And I think when people come to me for henna now, because now I'm not only a holistic henna practitioner, I've removed the henna artist, because I feel as if there are still some complications, again, some patterns that we have been seeing. Again, people aren't as aware. There's this duality as well, like what is henna, what is the artist? And I feel like it's just a title and people don't really dive into it. And for me, anything that I associate with Tricia, I wanted to know more about. For example, I am Pakistani, but what does that mean? What does it mean to be Pakistani? Even the blazer that I'm wearing, this is actually one of my own designs that I made back and as a surface designer. And there's henna actually on the bottom of this blazer.
No, really? So henna being used as a print on clothing.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes. And I started my fashion collective. It was called Lady Definition. I can laugh about this now. But I launched the fashion collective in 2012. And then we went on to, there's a club here, music nightclub, and we had a couple other events in the city. And I sold all my jackets. And then I kept like the original, the sample designs for myself. But yeah, I'm a surface designer and I love the use of henna in like using it as a dye because I love to paint. So hand painted, can you just imagine a whole line of like hand painted saris and blazers? Oh my God, all done in henna.
That would be really cool. That would be really cool.
So just working along that and knowing that, so henna isn't limited. Instead of me, because I had these self-limiting beliefs that, oh, I don't know if I'll be able to make it. I don't know if I'll be able to help people. What is henna actually going to do? So those questions that I put into, you know, my daily like prompts actually. When I was looking at it, so what can henna do? Oh, it can heal, it can guide, it can also awaken, it can restore, it can rejuvenate, it can keep us cool, because henna was actually used by the Prophet Muhammad, who is the last prophet of Islam. We believe in 124,000. And there's including Jesus, including Moses, including all of them, all the messengers. So it's a very collective way of looking at spirituality. And I found that in the Middle East, when he was walking, he would actually put henna on the soles of his feet to keep his feet cool. So the sands wouldn't burn his feet. So henna has all of these cooling agent properties, where even it can actually be seen as a vulnerary for child wounds in the past. But again, you can't use this information now because number one, I'm not a doctor, you know, the clinical research isn't there. So I'm just saying that there is an endless opportunity and possibility, but we have to be very, very aware that if we wish to do something we also have to take the awareness and the accountability that we will educate ourselves, and we are educated. And again, we're always learning our whole life, from the birth to the death. We're always learning. And I think this cycle of learning is what encouraged me to open up my practice in 2017 to 18 as a full-time henna artist, and then going deep down into 2019 as a holistic henna practitioner, which is what pushed me in 2020 to start my holistic health training. And I had to pivot, of course, because of the pandemic, but I know that henna for me has been the medium to heal, to promote wellness, to bring community together, to encourage others to celebrate themselves, to grieve, to choreograph your emotions. And also it can be used in like your hair as well. It's a great dye for your hair. It's a very healthy alternative to using, these PPD driven dyes as well in your hair. It's very nourishing, mixed with like fennel. You can use like a really nice henna mask for your hair. I know women with textured hair as well have been using henna and fennel, and there's so many incredible artists like the Henna Souk, who has a whole line of, textured hair care products with henna. So, I mean, there's just so much. There's so much in the world. Henna is abundant. I hope it will be.
Yes, no, for sure, for sure. And I'm reminding myself of my own henna experience, right? And before we started recording, I started telling you about that and how beautiful it was when I was getting married, my sister-in-law doing the henna on my hand. And it was very much a spiritual experience. We're just sitting there, we're talking, we're, sharing stories, and she's doing the henna and she's asking me questions and I'm sharing. And with the answers that I'm giving, she's doing the design, on my hand. And it was just this beautiful experience of just being there with her, talking with her. And I felt, a bit transformed in that experience. And I feel like I have a small glimpse of what you're talking about when you're sharing, this idea of the possibilities, the endless possibilities of what henna can do within communities, and a lot of times we don't recognize how nature gives us healing properties and gives us different things that we can do to help us to get to different stages. And that's why, you're here to share this with the world, to help everybody to recognize that spirituality comes from nature and nature comes from spirituality, and we're here for a reason, right? Absolutely. To give to the world and to bless the world with these different things, these natural properties. So thank you for being here with us and for sharing your story and your journey and the properties of henna and how you're using it, in your company and in the world at large. The last thing I want to find out from you today are tips. What are some tips that you can give to, it could be an artist out there, or it could be maybe a budding, henna practitioner. What are some tips that you can give to help individuals out there? If they're just starting out, or, how can they see henna as something much more than just, something that you can just put on your hand? Yeah.
Absolutely. Again, there's so much research out there. Number one, if you are interested in henna, I think it's very, very important. And we as artists, as creators, as educators, as teachers, you can believe in something that it'll work for you. But to convince others and to bring this collective community at large, or even to start your own business as a henna artist, practitioner, guide to healing, or a healer, in the sense that education is the most important thing. So do your research. Yes, there's so many academic articles out there. There's a book, The Henna Artist, as well. Read the stories if you wish to. And if you're from another culture, people become very hesitant. They're like, oh, this is cultural appropriation. I cannot do it because it's not from me or my family or my ancestry. I say, well, who's limiting you to express yourself with this art form? If you love something, build the awareness of where it comes from. Do your homework and then come to the practice of henna, of experiencing, of expressing it. I too am still learning about henna and how it actually heals, how it intuitively, integratively works within the skin, what it can actually do with the skin, because I'm on my own normalizing skin texture journey. So, you know, developing hormonal acne, looking at self-worth, looking at the properties, the scents, you know, aromatherapy is very much integrated with henna. And many people are not even using pure essential oils. And if you use pure, you have to be very careful because, for example, if you're using a certain type of lemon essential oil, you know, you have to look at photosynthesis, right? Like how that's happening. You're looking at skin radiation, eczema, psoriasis, rosacea, all these different skin conditions. If you are adorning with chemical henna on someone who has some sort of eczema, number one, eczema is there's oh my goodness, I'm losing the word here, but in regards to the pathology of eczema, you see that the skin is shedding. So if you're adorning someone with henna and the bride has eczema and you've adorned half of her arm, which is, you know, she has eczema on her forearm, it'll most likely not be present on the day of her wedding because her skin will be shedding. Also, certain oils, eucalyptus, you have lavender, you have all these different oils that come in. You have to be very cautious of, am I using, who am I getting the henna supplied from? Who's my supplier? And where is the henna coming from? Is it store-bought? Because if it's store-bought, it has to be refrigerated and the shelf life is only for a day. After that, it's expired and people continue to buy henna. It's shipped from India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, most places, most regions of henna suppliers. And when it's shipped, it literally expires by the time it even comes here. So you have to be very cautious about what you're using and how you're using. And that's what I would have to say is that if you wish to start something, find suppliers, educate yourself, do your research. Don't just trust on the word of mouth or referrals. If you are referred, yes, go for it right away, but do your research. If you're being adorned, then know that, build a personality, a connection. Know that that artist has a personality that you resonate with, the energy of that practitioner that is adorning you. You know that person, seek that person, do their research, read their blogs, get to know them. Have a consultation. Consultations are so very important and valid. And last but not least, know that henna, if you wish it, if you wish for it, and if you want love in your life, henna is a great way to revive that sense of restoration for yourself and to bring back that confidence, that self-worthiness, which I teach through my holistic practice as well. And that's about it.
So thank you for sharing those tips, right? So from what I'm getting, first thing, if you want to be a practitioner, you're saying you don't have to, you know, be Indian or Pakistani or from Bangladesh or all these different places, you know, but if you're going to do it, get the research, do the history, find out as much as you can about it before starting something like this. Perfect. Do the research, right? And the second thing is, if you're going to be a person who wants to get henna from a practitioner, then research that person, make sure you make a connection with them, find out if they're going to match with you. It's very similar to counseling. You're wanting to make sure that this counselor is going to be able to provide you with the service that you need, right? So it's similar. Make sure you find a connection with the practitioner so that they will be able to work with you well, right? And then in that last breath, it's, you know, making sure that you identify what it is that you need as an individual, right? And then coming into the space, knowing what it is that you want to do. So whether you want to be a practitioner or you want to get henna services, come with it, you know, in a sense of knowing what it is that you want. And then with that, you're able to embrace the experience.
Yes, absolutely. And also the supplies, right? Like knowing what kind of henna you're getting done. And black henna, oh my goodness, Tricia, so many individuals. I mean, it started in the Middle East and also Sudan and Somalia, you know, with individuals of more melanin, right? Where you're darker complexion, right? And then your skin is gorgeous, you know, but the henna, because it's so close to the skin color, people are often, you know, just, they're like, oh, we don't want the natural henna because it won't show on our skin. Well, there's an alternative to black henna, which black henna isn't henna at all. It's PPD, ammonia, it's hair dye basically in a cone mixed with a little bit of henna. And then when you apply it, many people have had burns, severe 3rd-degree burns. A little girl in the UK, I don't know, it was all over the news actually at one time. She went to, her parents went to Egypt and they had adorned her there in the salon. And they asked them, is this natural? And they've never had it before, right? And that's the thing, when you don't know something about something. I mean, thank God we have technology now where if we're even in Egypt or if we're somewhere in some cave, I mean, you've got, I would hope that you would have reception. But if you are being, number one, if you're going to a cave to get henna done, I mean, align yourself. Whereabouts? What's the demographic around you? What kind of henna? There's a scent to henna as well. It's a natural plant. If it smells like chemicals, if it's too empowering, if it's giving you a headache, that should be a sign. Your intuition should kick in and be like, oh, this isn't
not natural.
It's not natural. So move away from that. So again, looking at the supplies, reading the ingredients, it's so important. And again, this is something that I take accountability for, is that the henna cones that I would sell, and this is why I'm actually not a supplier, more so I get my things supplied. I always ask for the ingredients, always, always, always. And now my branding with these holistic henna kits, because in COVID, there's close proximity, you can't adorn as often. So I'm making henna kits and I'll have the ingredients on the back of the packaging, because for so long, Tricia, there's been no ingredients on the package. Henna is henna. And that doesn't tell us anything about the product, because if it's on the shelf, most likely there are preservatives, perfumes, so many things, other chemicals that are keeping it to provide its stain for a longer period of time, which is why people are like, oh, we want the red henna or we want the black henna. There's also white henna glam. White henna glam is just prosate glue. It's latex free. It's body paint. It's gorgeous. I adore my clients with it. It would look so stunning on you, by the way. And then we also have your jagua, which is the alternative to black henna, which comes from the Amazonian tribes, which is a natural fruit. And men, oh my goodness, my husband looked incredible. He had his whole sleeve done. It was so beautiful. And it just makes you feel as if there is a version of henna and alternatives that can be natural, gentle, and also give you that sense of worthiness, and value, that you're being adorned by not only an artist, but by someone that wants you to feel good and not have any adverse effects. And also is educated and has that awareness to be like, you're coming into a safe space. Not only will I listen to you, but I will also take care of your body and make sure that you are out of harm's way. So that is also very important.
I love it. I love it. And you're talking about it and I'm just like, I want to try, I want to do all these different things, and you never know, maybe I'll experience it soon, right? We'll meet up. I'll come to Ontario and we'll do a consult, and I'll come back and I'll be like, guys, look at my hand. It was so lovely talking to you.
Thank you so much.
No problem. All right. How can my followers, my listeners, contact you? Because I have people who are listening in Ontario, and if they want to get a henna kit, naturally sourced products, guys, from Saira, then, how can they contact you?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. So you can contact me on breathofhenna.com. I will have my wellness kit up there soon. Shipping will be only in Ontario at the moment due to the delays of COVID policies and all these things. They're also available for pickup, so no problem at all. We'll be ready on Wednesday, so you'll have stencils and henna that are signature designs of mine. I'm very excited about that. So that's launching on Wednesday. Other than that, I have an Instagram account, which is Breath of Henna, not Breathe of Henna, please. There's no E at the end of after the H, but it is Breath of Henna. And of course, with the sisterhood community, I also have another page, a Facebook community called the Love Letter Community, all one word, on Instagram, and then also on Facebook, where we talk about sisters, our stories. And again, Tricia, I would love to have you there as well. So I'm very, very excited.
Please invite me. I'd love to come, have a chat, all that. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And those are the ways. And of course, the website has all the information through email. If you ever had any hesitations, you can go to my facts section on breathofhenna.com, where I vividly explain, and it was recently featured on Pakistani magazine as well, where you can actually learn how to darken your henna stain and how to actually take care of your skin, because a lot of that skincare has actually been taken out. People come to get henna done and they have all these high expectations, but then they'll go into chlorine, like water, like pools, or they'll have like a magnesium salt bath, or they'll do some exfoliation, or they'll go get their waxing done. And then suddenly your henna becomes lighter and you don't know why that is. So I also have holistic skin rituals that you can do pre and post henna as well.
Perfect. Wonderful. All right, guys. Well, you heard it here. breathofhenna.com. Go check her out. And we'll be putting all of her information in the description below this video. So if you want to go check out Breath of Henna, please go check it out there. All right. Well, it's been lovely having you here. And with that, guys, we'll see you next time. Take care.